Hi guys, welcome to my masterclass. So as an introduction, I think it's very important for us to really dive into the words because, it's everywhere on the news, artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, OpenAI, GPT. But trust me, after talking about it for more than a year, after giving lectures around the world, very few people actually know the words and their meanings. And I feel like you cannot really start to master it, to know how to prompt and to truly dive into the prompting techniques before you know the words and the vocabulary. So don't worry, it's going to be easy peasy. I'm just going to show you examples and what I feel is the most important list of words. So let's start with the easiest one, AI, artificial intelligence. So my point of view is that it's not really an intelligence. This is more like probability and statistics. Basically, it is a model that is trained to tell you the most possible words or the next most possible pixel to generate an image or a piece of text. So can we actually say it is intelligence? I'm not sure. Even if it's trained on a lot of data, if you wanted to have the same level of data as a human being, well, you would need a whole full lot of data, and that's for the best. I remember Yann Lequin, a known scientist, said that actually the models that are trained right now is about the same amount of information as a 4 to 5 years old. So don't worry, it is not an actual intelligence. It is more a very powerful probability and statistic machine that will help us brainstorm, write, create images, or even do videos sometime. Number 2. LLM and GPT. You've heard about it everywhere for the past year, but few people actually know what it is. So LLM, it's large language model, and GPT is generative pre-training transformer. So it's a very fancy word because the people who built it, the people from Google at DeepMind, this is just the technology that they used, and this is why it has this weird word. But basically, this is the statistics and probability I used to tell you. It is now known as AI, but basically it is generating text based on a set of data. So for the most known one, ChatGPT, the data we're talking about is mostly Wikipedia, books, and a whole full lot of Reddit content. And then a little bit of internet here and there. If we had it to put it into books, that's roughly 3 million books. In terms of LLM, you have different one. I'm going to start with the one you all know, ChatGPT. So basically, why is it ChatGPT? You know what's GPT? It generates text with probability with a set of data from before. And the idea of OpenAI was that ChatGPT could be a GPT you could have a chat with. So instead of having just a result, you can even discuss about the results. Maybe saying, hey, this is not exactly what I meant, or maybe even go deeper. Like, okay, this is exactly what I meant. Can we actually do some follow-up and go even deeper with my request? So this is why they made ChatGPT in November 2022, and it was the first time it was open to the public. You also have other LLM, like Claude from Anthropic, or Gemini from Google. And then you have Poe, Perplexity, Mistral, Llama from Facebook. But the main one are ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude. So that's the one we're going to focus on. Now, how to use those LLMs? You use prompt. Again, fancy word, but fairly simple. Basically, it's the request you send to the LLM. So, for example, when you ask, what is the capital of France to ChatGPT? This is the prompt. This is what you ask. And then you have an answer from ChatGPT. But if you go deeper with prompts, then you have what is called prompt engineering. So here again, very simple. You have code and people who program codes, programmers. Well, you have prompts, and prompt engineering is how to make sure your prompt gets the best results. And it is down to a science. And I've read all the academic paper around it. And again, it's pretty simple, much simpler than coding. So this is what we're going to learn along these sessions. Now that you know LLM and prompt engineering, you must know token. This is probably the one thing that no one knows about, and yet it is crucial for LLMs. So LLMs, they don't have an infinite memory. It is actually quite finite. The idea behind it, think about it like a sponge. You know, a sponge can take water, but then at some point it cannot take water anymore. So here it's the same with token limits. Basically, you have a limit of things you can tell the LLM, like ChatGPT, and there is a limit of the amount of things it can reply. The only problem with the token limit is that the LLM will never tell you when it reaches the limit. The only thing that's going to happen is that it's going to have hallucination, and maybe you've also heard about it. Hallucination is basically the LLM having a conversation with you, and once it reached the token limits, it forgot the beginning. Let's say I start the chat by saying, I am Ruben Acid, and I'd like to write an article with you. And then you start having a chat with ChatGPT. You know, you have the headline, the whole articles, and you start writing more and more articles. If you reach the token limits because you said too much and it replied too much, then at some point, ChatGPT is going to forget that your name is Ruben Acid, even though you mentioned it in the very beginning. What's nice is that those LLM, those companies like OpenAI and Google with Gemini, they keep pushing the limit of token limit. Like, for example, when I started using ChatGPT, the token limit was roughly 3,000, 4,000 token. Right now, with ChatGPT, it's 128,000 tokens. And a token is roughly a word. And with Gemini, it is roughly 1,000,000 token. So this is why you always need to keep an eye on the token limit on any LLM. Before we deep dive into all the prompting technique I've learned with academic papers, this is the kind of content we're going to have and we're going to go through. So for example, zero-shot prompting versus few-shot prompting, and how giving examples to the LLM gives you much better results. Then you have chain of thoughts, which is basically the step-by-step process that is so important in prompt engineering. Then you have tree of thoughts. It's a technique to brainstorm with the LLM and use it like 100 assistants. Then you have multimodality. Fairly simple. It's the idea that an LLM cannot just generate text or process text, but can also see or even watch a movie or a video.